Hey, I'm Dr. Brett, and I'm here with Anka Dando, and she's going to ask me some questions on life and business. So go.
Yes, I guess the first question, how do we deal with toxic people or toxic situations when living that situation is not actually an option at the moment?
Okay, so the question is, how do we deal with difficult environments and toxic people when, we can't leave it in the short term? Mm-hmm. And one of the things I like to talk about a lot is to manage your internal states. And the better you manage your internal states by paying attention to your breathing and paying attention to your mind and watching it. Because the mind, if you don't pay attention, it'll just run into negativity and it'll run into other things that are just not healthy and not good for you. So if your emotional state is calmer and more balanced because you're paying attention to your breathing, then even if you're in a difficult environment, it'll be a little bit less difficult. Now the real answer longer term is obviously to change that environment. And that's going to take, for some people that can be a huge challenge because there might be an economic situation or there might be fear. A lot of people are afraid of change. But the real thing is we're sort of balancing the internal and the external, if that makes sense.
Right, so basically remember to breathe and actually to stay positive and stay...
Yeah, and it's harder, the longer you're in a toxic environment, the harder it is to stay positive. And so that's why you want to do things like eat well and exercise, right? The more you exercise, right, the better you tend to feel and the easier it is to put up with negativity. Right. And to put up with aggression and things that are really uncomfortable.
Right, but for example, if I have a coworker who's extremely toxic and she's just like next to me 8 hours a day, like
that is
what can I do?
Yeah, so that's the hard part, right? You're next to a coworker, she's really negative. There are things you can do. You can bring it up, right? You can do the self-expression piece. I often talk about that. I was talking to a client this morning about making a decision that some of the time we're going to express ourselves and some of the time we're going to work on letting go. And one of the arts to living is to find that balance. So with the coworker, you might say, hey, you're doing, I don't know if you realize it, but you're doing a lot of negativity and it affects everyone else in this environment. Now, it would be your way and your words, but you could bring that up. Right. And if that's not effective, if she gets defensive or aggressive or something, then what you want to do is you want to work on your breathing, you want to exercise more, you want to eat better so you feel better, and then you're going to interview better. In other words, you're going to change the environment. You don't want to stay stuck. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense. Thank you. Also, how do we recharge after a day spent at work, like 8 hours at work, 2 hours in traffic? How do we recharge our batteries and find the energy to go home and actually create something which we enjoy? Exactly.
Well, that's the real challenge. Like, I work with a lot of people during the week, and sometimes I can get really fatigued because I'm helping so many, it's almost like I'm carrying so many different lives, right? I'm involved in their personal life, their career, their problems, and if I'm not careful, I can get really fatigued. And then it's hard for me to work on the book that I'm working on. I'm working on a novel. And so the challenge is to let go of, a lot of that negativity or a lot of the challenge in working with all these people and to have a creative side. The only way I can do that is if I manage my states really well. Mm-hmm. So some days I'm going to be better at it than others, but I'm exercising almost every day. I meditate, multiple times during the day. I do things like, walk in nature and be in nature and go to the beach and things that I take the dogs to the dog park. I do things that help me let go. And it's never perfect, right? It's not, if it were perfect, we'd have 4 hours of work a day and not 8 hours in a difficult environment.
Right,
and then we can work on our creative projects on the side. So we're doing the best we can to unleash creativity, and yet, we still, it's not easy because we have all these other responsibilities.
Right. But is there like a magic quick trick like we get from work and we could just do something and then we just go on with
Well, I think meditation, when you build a muscle called meditation, it can be a little magical because it's kind of like going for a run. If you've meditated for a long period of time, then a 10-minute meditation can clear your mind and free your spirit. So that's why I help people build that muscle around learning how to meditate. And it can be as simple as just paying attention to your breathing. right? And the more you pay attention to your breathing, you're doing something called mindfulness. If it's formal in a meditation practice, then you're just sitting and paying attention to your breathing. When thoughts come or fantasies come, you're just coming back to the breath. A lot of people say they can't meditate. It's not true. Or they say they've tried and it's too hard. And part of the reason why it's so hard is they're struggling not to think or not to fantasize, and that's not what meditation is. Meditation is noticing that when the mind goes somewhere, you bring it back. Bring it back to the breath. Or if you're practicing mindfulness, you bring it back to something positive and creative that you want to focus on, as opposed to the negative, the worker or the coworker that's toxic or negative. The more you focus on her toxicity, the lousier you feel. The more you focus on a trip back to Romania, right, or something you love, going for a hike in nature or something positive, the better you're going to feel. And if you're doing this throughout the day, it's not perfect. It's going to be helpful though.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining me here.
Thank you.
Awesome.